Oh my gosh, why have I not done those for my whole life? I will absolutely be stealing those for everything. Hey friends, welcome back to Next Level Nonprofit Video, a channel where we save you time, cash, and sanity as you make videos that move people. And today I am so excited to have reached the finish line of the past 6 videos, maybe 5 videos. I'm not sure what order mine and Jake's will come up in here for this last. Okay, well that was really distracting. Anyway, we've reached the finish line. We have finished editing Ariel's story video, and I'm going to be sharing Jake's edit of the video with you today. Now, I haven't seen it yet either, so I'm going to be reacting in real time and getting to experience it just like you. So without me wasting any more time, let's just get right into it. I'm going to cut over here, and I may pop in and say some things and then pop back out again, but you know, we'll see how this goes. So yeah, let's do this. The film burn! I love that. That's so subtle.
Hi, my name's Ariel and this is my story. Growing up, my dad wanted to be really important for me and my siblings to grow up in the church, but church really ended on Sunday for us. It wasn't quite brought into the home as much as I personally would have liked now as an adult. When I was 13, I was invited to church by one of those really good friends I had when I was in first grade, and it's so crazy to think now how far we've come. We've known each other for almost 20 years and he's still my best friend. But he invited me to his youth group. I hadn't heard from him in years, so it was just out of the blue, and to this day I am so thankful for that moment. And that was really my first encounter of what life looks like with a personal relationship with Jesus. And so since that point I had started pursuing. I asked questions. I did my best to really understand what faith looks like in this way, where it's not just this abstract thought, but really it's a relationship. The new church did a really good job of introducing relational aspects of the Christian life, but they definitely had their own set of standards that you should follow. And I think that's where a lot of that pressure came in. So after a while, I started to feel like I wasn't growing. I was just living up to this good Christian checklist. So that's when I decided to transition out of there, and I wanted to find a non-denominational church, something that didn't have these expectations on me. So that's when I found Life Point, and that's when I started getting involved with their worship team, and that's when the relationship with God felt authentic. I felt like I wasn't pressured into being a good Christian. I wanted to be a good Christian. Like, these standards were something that I wanted to follow. With leaving high school, a lot of people try and have a plan for what comes next. And for me, that was going to college, studying music, and becoming a music teacher. That's what pretty much everyone expects when you say you're a music major. But after a year, I was like, this isn't what I want. I started to doubt whether this was really the right path for me, so I started to explore other opportunities. I looked into computer science, I looked into religious studies, I looked into social work, and I didn't feel comfort in those. That was just a big realization that I can't build my identity on these things. And it was around that same time in sophomore year where I was starting to think what the plan is, that this revelation of identity building happened. Like, it was just like this sudden moment of like, I can't be building my identity on these things that I think should define me. I need to translate that and build my identity on something that's eternal. Build my identity on something that's unchanging. With graduating from school, I did finish the semester early, so I didn't quite know what was going to happen yet, but what I knew was that I needed a job. So I started doing the job hunt like anybody else, and I had a couple of interviews, but they didn't go as expected. And there was a new worship pastor at my church, and I'd only met him a couple of times before this moment, but I mentioned it to the worship team one night after practice. I was like, hey, just be praying for me. I'm starting to look for a job. And then a little while later, like a few days went by, he comes to me, he's like, hey, I think we have something for you. And I was a little bit taken aback. I never pictured myself as somebody working in ministry. So it was definitely a shift for me to say yes to that. So I was doing worship arts, I was working with teams and leading, and then I started working in communications. I started working with their social media, helping get that back off the ground. And after a little while, there was a communications director brought in, and she started giving me some projects. And I started to find this new passion, something that I didn't expect to come across. So I did really want to pursue communication, so I wanted to go get my master's. And it was in a completely different field than when I studied as an undergraduate. After a while with, working towards my master's, I felt like in my own mind, it was time for me to get a full-time job. It was time for me to find a job in marketing and communications. And so I decided to try my own thing, and I found a full-time job, and immediately I knew it was not where I was supposed to be, but I didn't have a plan of what was gonna happen next. So I took a leap. I decided I was going to quit my job, and the day that I was going to put in my notice, I got a call from the church saying that they were going to have a lot more freelance work for me, and if I had the capacity to handle it, and I said yes. And that was the moment I felt God working in my life again. I trusted God that He would bring work my way. And so I had one client, and then I had two, and then I had a contract, and by that point I was like, I could make this my full-time job if I wanted to. And it was really cool to see the way God had been working in this when I trusted Him with every part of my life, really. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen next. And then that's where COVID comes in. I did not see anything like this coming. Neither did the churches I was working with. And so I started to lose clients. And now I'm at a really hard point in my life where I've started questioning again. But it's different this time. I don't feel like I'm ready to quit. I have confidence. I have peace, and I have a lot of hope. I just remind myself that this is a season. There's a song that I'm really reminded of, and it's one that was really important to me in that season of transition. It's called Seasons by Hillsong. Though the winter is long, even richer, the harvest it brings. And though my waiting prolongs, even greater, your promise for me like a seed, I believe that my season will come. That was a song I listened to every day on my way into work and out, because I knew that this was a season and God was getting ready for the next season. He was going to bring something beautiful out of it. And right now, where I am, is a season. And the waiting is so hard sometimes. And I feel like I just got out of that season of waiting and wanting. And to be put back into it right away is challenging. But I believe my season will come. That's my hope.
Dang, that was so good. I don't know if you've seen my cut or not yet, but one of the things that I really struggled with in the edit with my, let me turn me back up here. I can barely hear me, so you can barely hear me, and that won't do. One of the things that I really struggled with during my edit of this story was that there were two different stories that Ariel told. We got her coming to faith story, and then we got the story of her learning to relinquish control, and I love how Jake navigated telling both of those stories and making each of them succinct enough to tell in one video. I also really liked how natural it felt. I almost said authentic, but that's not the right descriptor for what I'm talking about right now. I love the way that it feels like you're having a conversation with her. I have a very aggressive edit style where I tend to remove all the silences and the dead space, but when Jake leaves those things in, it tends to feel more like we're actually sitting across the table from each other and like, oh, she had a thought and she thought about it and then she said what she was thinking. And I just really love that. This video came out at 8:41. Which is a little bit long for play in a church, but we're not playing this in a church. We're watching this to get her story, and I think that the decision to take that time and get the space and the breath to let the conversation kind of vibe between you and the subject here was a really good call. I also love those film burn transitions. Oh my gosh, why have I not done those for my whole life? I will absolutely be stealing those for everything. That was so cool, and I love the way that it transitions into and out of the B-roll, giving it that kind of ethereal, like, flashback vibe. I think that's really cool. So the difference in colors between his A-roll his cam 1 and his cam 2 is really interesting to me. So like here in camera 2, you can see that we've got this really, oh, you can't see it. What am I talking about? You can't see that. Interesting. Maybe no one can see that. That's weird. We're in a fight. If I hit play,
One
can
of
you
those
see it?
really good friends I had when I was in first grade.
This camera
and it's
2
so crazy
angle
to think
versus the
now
camera 1 angle, the colors are so
far
different.
we've known each other for
And
almost
at
20
first,
years,
I was a
and
little
we
bit
still best
distracted by
friends.
it, but I almost
You
feel like
invited
it's
me
kind
to
of
a youth group. I
being
hadn't heard
used
of it
to,
and
like,
good friends I had when I
add
was
to
in
the
first grade,
surrealism
and
of these
it's so
side
crazy to
angles.
think
Jake's really
now
intentional about when he
how
cuts to
far
camera
we've come.
2,
We've known each other for
and
almost
it's
20
usually
years,
when
and he's
we
still my best
receive
friend.
something that disrupts the
But he
flow.
invited me
And so when we
to
get
this
something
group. I
jarring,
hadn't
it's like the
heard from
colors
him
are even
in
jarring
years,
with it.
so
Like
it
here's
was
a revelation, or here's
And
something
to this
that we
day,
haven't
I'm
noticed
so
before. I think
thankful
that's really
for that
cool.
moment.
So I just really enjoyed this video. I think Jake's style is really nice and refreshing and organic by comparison to mine. And it was so fun to watch another version of something that can be made, you know, in your own style. And so cool to hear two different stories get told out of the same interview. I definitely encourage you to use the comments to just show Jake some love, tell him stuff you loved, what are things that stuck out to you about this video, and if you want to see my take, you can just click the video right down below me. Jake's over there looking at my video too. Whatever you do, I'm so glad you were with us today, and get out there and make some videos that move people. See ya, fam.